It was on the coldest night of November when Ryan first saw them, two little girls huddled on either side of a young woman, their arms wrapped tightly around her as they sat shivering at the corner of an empty bus terminal. The woman's eyes were vacant, her coat barely enough to shield the twins from the wind, and no luggage except for an old tote bag clutched against her chest. Ryan wasn't planning to stop. He had just finished a late plumbing job and was rushing to get home to his son, but something about their stillness, their quiet pain, stopped him in his tracks. He took a breath, stepped closer, and asked softly, "Do you need help?" The woman, whose name was Grace, hesitated. Her voice cracked when she explained that her husband had passed away only 3 months ago in a construction accident. Since then, her in-laws had blamed her for his death, accusing her of bringing bad luck to their family. They refused to house her and her daughters any longer, saying they were a burden. She'd been sleeping in shelters or wherever they could find space until tonight, when even the shelter had turned them away. She had nowhere left to go. Ryan was a single father to an 11-year-old boy named Jack. His wife had left when Jack was a baby, unable to handle the responsibilities of motherhood, and Ryan had raised him alone. He understood abandonment, loss, and struggle. So when he looked at Grace, he saw more than a stranger. He saw someone like him, someone holding on, just barely, for the sake of her children. Without thinking much, he offered her and the girls a place to stay, just for the night, he said. Their first night in Ryan's small, 2-bedroom house was filled with nervous silences and quiet glances. The girls, Ava and Emma, clung to their mother, afraid to even speak. Grace apologized for everything, the inconvenience, the trouble, the noise. But Ryan only nodded and said, "You're safe now." What none of them knew was that this night would become the beginning of something none of them expected. Living together was far from easy. Ryan's home was barely big enough for 2, let alone 5. His finances were tight, and he didn't have extra to spare. Grace was still grieving and struggled with depression, barely sleeping at night. The twins had nightmares, waking up crying. Jack, used to a quiet home, felt overwhelmed. Tensions rose quickly, and there were moments Ryan questioned his decision. He wasn't sure he could hold everyone together when he himself was barely staying afloat. But slowly, things began to change. Grace, despite her grief, started helping around the house, cooking meals, tidying up, and taking care of the twins. She also started tutoring Jack with his homework, something Ryan had always struggled to find time for. The girls warmed up to Jack, who taught them how to play video games and made them laugh when they cried. For the first time in years, the house echoed with life. With love. Still, they faced challenges. Grace couldn't find work easily, especially with 2 little girls who needed constant attention. The pain of her husband's loss still haunted her. Some neighbors gossiped about Ryan taking in a strange woman with kids. Jack missed having time alone with his dad. And Ryan, though kind, was exhausted, physically and emotionally. There were nights he lay awake wondering if he had made a mistake trying to save someone when he barely had anything left to give. Then one morning, something happened that changed everything. Grace came into the kitchen holding a letter. She had been offered a job at the local library. The twins had become regular visitors there, and one of the librarians had noticed Grace reading to them every afternoon. The library offered her a part-time role in children's programming. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And it made Grace cry, not out of sadness, but for the first time, out of hope. With a little income and a lot of teamwork, the small house turned into a true home. Jack and the twins became inseparable. Grace's laughter returned, and with it, so did Ryan's. He found himself smiling more, talking more, even humming while making breakfast. Grace started writing again, short poems and stories, and Ryan found comfort in reading them late at night. The grief they carried didn't disappear, but it softened with time and love. On a warm spring afternoon, they all sat in the backyard, watching the twins chase fireflies and Jack strum on a guitar. Grace turned to Ryan and said, "I thought I had lost everything. But you gave me something better, another chance." Ryan didn't know how to respond, but Jack looked at him and grinned. "You're kinda like our superhero, Dad," he said. That was the moment Ryan realized he hadn't just saved them. They had saved him too. Moral of the story. Sometimes the heart that feels the most broken is the one most ready to heal. When we open our doors to others, we often open our hearts to the very miracles we never saw coming.